Hello. Hello and welcome to Fact or Fake. Learn to tell real information from the scams. I am the reference librarian with the St. Tammany Parish Library. In today's class, we are covering information, fake news, bias, fact checking, radar, scams, and resources. So information and its counterfeits. Information is knowledge communicated or received concerning a particular fact or circumstance. News. Propaganda is systematic spreading of information in order to instill a particular attitude or response. Misinformation is false information that is spread regardless of whether there is intent to mislead. Disinformation is deliberately sharing and or creating false information, especially with the intention of influencing policies or public opinion. So, what are types of mis and disinformation? So, satire is no intention to cause harm, but has the potential to fool by using humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize an event or stance. Then there's misleading content, misleading use of information to frame an issue or individual. There's imposter content when genuine sources are impersonated. Fabricated content, so new content is 100% false, designed to deceive and do harm. Then there's false connection, when headlines, visuals, or captions don't support the content. False context, when genuine content is shared with false contextual information. Then there's manipulated content, when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive. So what is fake news? Fake news are news stories that are hoaxes, propaganda, or disinformation claiming to be real news. Why? To spread disinformation. It can be used to create chaos or distract from real events, as well as to influence voters or protesters. Now let's talk about bias. A bias is a tendency, inclination, or prejudice toward or against something or someone. They can be innate or learned. People may develop biases for or against an individual, a group, or a belief. There are several types of biases. Some examples are anchoring bias, blind spot bias, confirmation bias, outcome bias, and bandwagon effect. So fake news versus biased news. What is biased news? Biased news is the report of true events presented at a certain angle. As a result, you may know the truth, but not know the real meaning behind it. So what's the difference between fake news and biased news? Biased news is still news. The events are real. You just have to take the time to consider what parts might be biased. Bias does not equal evil. We're all biased in some way. Bias does not make someone a bad person. It makes them human. Bias can also be unintentional. That's why it's so important to be aware of our own biases, as well as the bias that may exist in the information we receive. To learn more about the different types of biases, you can go to School of Thought's Your Bias at https://yourbias.is. /. So everyone knows about media bias. There are two different media bias charts. There's Ad Fontes Media Interactive Bias Chart, which can be found at the link on the screen. It is a Colorado-based media watchdog organization which rates media sources in terms of political bias and reliability. They use a multi-analyst content analysis ratings methodology. And then there's All Sides Media Bias Ratings, also found at the link below. Their media bias ratings are based on multi-partisan scientific analysis, and their methodologies include blind surveys, editorial reviews, independent reviews, third-party data, and community feedback. So, how to spot fake news? Consider the source, click away from the story to investigate the site, its mission, and its contact information. Check the author. Do a quick search on the author. Are they credible? Are they real? Check the date. Reposting old news stories doesn't mean they're relevant to current events. How old is the story? Check your bias. Consider if your own beliefs could affect your judgment. Read beyond. Headlines can be outrageous in an effort to get clicks. What's the whole story? Supporting sources? Click on those links. Determine if the info given actually supports the story. Is it a joke? If it's too outlandish, it might be satire. Research the site and author to be sure. And if all else fails, ask the experts. Ask a librarian or consult a fact-checking site, which they'll be listed at the end of the presentation. So, radar, rationale, authority, date, accuracy, reputation. So, rationale. Why did the author or publisher make this information available? Is there a sponsor or advertising? Who pays to help make this information available? Are alternative points of view presented? Does the author omit any important facts or data that might disprove their claim? Does the author use strong emotional language? Authority. One way to figure out authority is to research who is writing and publishing the information you read or watch. On a web page, you can search for the About Us or look for an area on the site that has biographical information about the author. This also extends to looking at who is quoted in the article. For example, how did the author find this quote? Where did it come from? We do not know the source. We do not know whether to believe the author. Date. Check dates. It is easy to share old news on the internet without realizing it's outdated. Accuracy. Bias and logical fallacies. Bias does not mean the author is bad, even if they don't agree with your viewpoint. The key is to recognize it so that we can take it into account. Bias could be lack of multiple viewpoints, loaded or emotional language, double standards, and opinions stated as fact. An article is not trustworthy if it uses faulty logic or false correlation versus causation. And then reputation. News sources that have a long-standing reputation of being legitimate are considered legitimate sources. This does not mean articles may not contain bias, but an established article from a reputable news source would not be considered fake news. check other resources. If multiple reputable articles are stating the same information as your source, it is a good sign that it could be accurate. There are also sites which have been created to verify the accuracy of a site and determine whether it is fake news. Scams. So the types of scams that I'll be talking about today are spam, phishing, spoofing, catfishing, robocalls and texts, and coronavirus scams. Spam. Everyone's heard of spam. So it's unsolicited email and now text, usually trying to sell something. It often includes links that could lead to viruses or malware. And an example is emails from dating sites you've never been to. So, have you been to this site before? Have you ever heard of this company? Does the email look like a legitimate company? Have you tried Googling the company? Make sure to keep antivirus and malware software updated on your computer. And when in doubt, don't click on any links. Phishing. So this is a special type of spam that is intended to trick you into entering your personal or account information. The goal is to access your account to commit identity theft or fraud. One example is an email or text from the IRS that says you owe money and that you must enter your checking account information immediately to avoid prosecution. Some things to do or not do. Do not click on links willy-nilly, especially from strangers. Do not share personal or financial information via email or text. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Check the email address that sent the message or the phone number that the text was from. When in doubt, find a way to verify information independently. So if it's an email from your bank, call your bank from the phone number that you have for them. You can always report it. You can report phishing emails to phishing.org or to the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. And then for texts, you can copy the message and forward it to 7726, which is spells out spam. Then there's spoofing, the forgery of an email or text so that the message appears to have originated from someone or somewhere other than the actual source. Usually spoofing and phishing often go hand in hand. One scenario, friend says he was robbed and needs money in the Philippines. Does it sound like him? The words he uses, the way usually emails or texts. Check the email address that it came from if it's in an email form. Be attentive to details like applelover@aim.com, but the L's are actually ones. Looks kind of like applelover@aim.com, where the L's are actually L's. Call your friend if you have his number, even if he claims his phone was stolen. And then do not reply to the email or text sent to you. Open a new message and enter your friend's regular email address or phone number to verify what has happened. And then there's catfishing, when a person pretends to be someone else, usually on social media or dating websites or apps, for a wide variety of reasons. Some things to be wary of: they won't do a video call or meetup. They have a very light social media profile. They get serious fast. Your gut tells you something is wrong. You suspect English isn't their first language. They'll often say they're living or traveling outside of the US. They'll often ask their targets for money. And scammers like this ask people to pay by wiring money or with reloadable cards or gift cards. If this ever happens, you can report it again to the FTC. So, robocalls and texts. Don't answer calls from unknown numbers. If you answer, hang up. Be aware caller ID showing a local number does not necessarily mean it is a local caller. If you answer the phone and the caller or recording asks you to hit a button to stop getting the calls, hang up. Do not respond to any questions, especially those that can be answered with yes. Never give out personal information such as account numbers, social security numbers, mother's maiden names, or other identifying information in response to unexpected calls or if you are at all suspicious. Use caution if you are being pressured for information immediately. If you have a voicemail account with your phone service, set a password. Some voicemail services are preset to allow access if you call in from your own phone number. A hacker could spoof your home phone number or cell phone number and gain access to your voicemail. Lastly, put your phone number on the Do Not Call registry at donotcall.gov. And if all else fails, hang up the phone for calls. So some of the coronavirus scams that are going around right now. So there's treatments and cures. Ignore online offers for vaccinations and home test kits. If you see ads touting prevention, treatment, or cure claims for the coronavirus, stop. If there is a medical breakthrough, you're not going to hear about it for the first time from an ad or sales pitch. At this time, there are also no FDA authorized home test kits for the coronavirus. Email and text scams. Don't click on links from sources you don't know. It could download a virus onto your computer or device. Make sure the anti-malware and antivirus software on your computer is up to date. Robocalls. Hang up on illegal robocallers. Don't press any numbers. The recording might say that pressing a number will let you speak to a live operator or remove you from their call list, but it might lead to more robocalls instead. Government relief checks. Expect scammers to take advantage of this. Here's what you need to know. The government will not ask you to pay anything upfront to get this money. The government will not call to ask for your social security number, bank account, or credit card number. Anyone who does is a scammer. Dig charities. Do your homework when it comes to donations. Use the organizations listed at ftc.gov/charity to help you research charities. If someone wants donations in cash, by gift card, or by wiring money, don't do it. Misinformation and rumors. Before you pass on any messages, do some fact checking by contacting trusted sources. Visit usa.gov/coronavirus for links to federal, state, and local government agencies. Contact tracing call, 5 things to know. Real contact tracers won't ask you for money. Only scammers insist on payment by gift card, money transfer, etc. Contact tracing doesn't require your bank account or credit card number. Never share account information with anybody who contacts you asking for it. Legitimate contact tracers will never ask for your social security number. Your immigration status doesn't matter for contact tracing, so real tracers won't ask. If they do, you can bet it's a scam. Do not click on a link in a text or email. Doing so can download malware onto your device. So, resources. So if we go to this link, it brings up a list of all of the resources that I've talked about in this class, and then ones that will be listed a little bit later. So there's PolitiFact, is a fact-checking website that rates the accuracy of claims by elected officials and others on its truthometer. Factcheck.org, which is a project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center. Open Secrets, maplight.org, TinEyes or reverse image search, Snopes.com, the Portner Institute, Washington Post has a fact checker. And then there's the School of Thought Your Bias link. Both of the media bias chart websites. Then there's some fraud and scam sites. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, consumer.gov, the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, the Federal Trade Commission website, the Federal Communications Commission website for unwanted robocalls and texts, the Do Not Call Registry, USA.gov, and then there's some coronavirus websites, so the Louisiana Department of Health, the Federal Trade Commission, coronavirus scams, coronavirus.gov, the USA.gov coronavirus website, the Federal Communications Commission coronavirus scams, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and then the Cybercrime Support COVID-19 scam alerts, where you can get alerts for the different types of scams that are popping up. So again, here's a list of all the fact-checking sites to remember. A list of all the fraud sites to remember. And then here's a list of all the coronavirus sites to remember. Thank you for watching this video today. Here's the link to the list for all the resources for today's class. And if you have any questions, you can go to this link below to contact your local reference librarian to get any help. Thank you.